Rockers, Turbo, back with you here inside the Asylum, continuing with all the guests we've had recently because, hey, there's a ton of great music out there right now, and who better to hear about it from than the artists that are making it. And recently, Red Tide Rising of Colorado has released their new EP, Voices, and that is now available wherever you buy your music. And I'm very happy to have with me now by phone Andrew Whiteman of Red Tide Rising. How are you, Andrew?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Turbo?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join me here inside the Asylum.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on. First thing I gotta do is I gotta congratulate you and the guys at Red Tide Rising on the recently announced tour dates with Sevendust and Crobot. Some of those dates being in the northern states here in the U.S. And I think there may be one or two dates in Canada, if correct me if I'm wrong on that. And you guys looking forward to getting out there with those guys?
Yeah, we're all super excited to go out. Sevendust is one of the best metal bands out there by far. So really excited to get to share the stage with them and Crobot, and just learn from them. We learned a ton when we went out with Drowning Pool, so I imagine it's going to be the same thing, and just go out and have a good time.
Absolutely, definitely going to be a great show, and I gotta admit, it's definitely going to be a tour where it's a little bit of a taste of everything in the world of rock and metal. Sevendust, of course, known for their style of metal. Crobot kind of being the forefronting leader in the revolution towards the 70s style of rock. And of course, you guys, Red Tide Rising, with your own unique style, with your new album, Voices, out. And really, I want to start out with asking, in regards to Voices, what made you guys decide to go with an EP as opposed to a full-length album, since it's been so long since you guys did The Rising in 2013?
There were a couple of things that kind of led to that. The first one was we got off tour with Drowning Pool at the end of 2014, and we started writing what was going to be the next full-length record. And a lot of the songs we really liked. There were some that we didn't really care for. And so we decided that let's just focus on the ones that we're really digging right now and make those, just work on those the hardest, bring in our producer Mike to really hone in on it, and let's just do that. So it's kind of just wanting to release quality over quantity kind of thing.
So this wasn't a decision based on everyone going digital or everyone leaning towards streaming and the upheaval on kind of where we are musically right now. This was a decision you guys made, just as you just said, for the sake of giving the best songs possible, instead of just saying, here's an album where half of it's good and the other half might be good.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that now that we've kind of figured out the kind of sound that we want to go for, that was the song that, we'll make a full-length album that fits together and is awesome from front to back.
No, it is true that you, interesting that you bring up sound, because I noticed, revisiting The Rising a little bit after listening to Voices, after it came out recently on May 12th, there is a different sound on what you guys are doing here as opposed to what you did on the Rising. You guys are definitely more on the metal side. I kind of get more of that, whereas with the Rising, it almost had like a Depeche Mode influence to it.
Hmm.
Was that something, you guys, when you sat down and said, maybe the way the industry's going, or was it the way that you guys felt as a band that you needed to transition from that particular style into a more metal sound like you have now on Voices?
So a lot of what made us kind of lean a little bit more towards metal was our vocalist Matthew had finally perfected the Zen of Screaming program. So he was really wanting to do a lot of aggressive vocals for this project. So we kept that in mind when we were writing the song. But it also just kind of naturally, during our writing sessions, the songs were kind of just already heavier and more on that metal side. So it was kind of just a natural evolution for the band to move in this direction. But, we were definitely aware that we wanted to make it heavier for Matthew.
Now, how is the feedback thing from the fan base? Because Red Tide Rising, you guys are not a new band. As you said, you've been out with Drowning Pool. People that don't know, you guys have also been out with In This Moment and so many others, and you've got a following, and you have people that know what you guys are all about. How's the feedback been so far for you guys from the fan base now that you guys are gravitating more towards the metal sound with Voices compared to maybe what everyone's come to know and love with the previous album, The Rising?
So far, from the fans and critics, we've had nothing but positive reviews. The only negative comment that's come out is that the CD is too short, which is a good thing because we wanted to make sure that we released the best quality songs that we could make at the time. So yeah, everybody's been really digging it. In the live shows, we still play a lot of the songs off of The Rising, but we've kind of reworked them in a way where it fits a little bit more with that new metal sound that we've got going on. So it's definitely just, I think everybody sees that it's a natural evolution for us and the right step that we needed to take. So yeah, definitely super proud about it.
Well, let's face it, we live in a day and age where everyone kind of listens to something for a day or a week and then moves on, and the fact that people are saying, and I will say myself included, that 5 songs just isn't enough, definitely speaks volumes to what you guys are doing. And I want to talk about the one song that it's getting a lot of attention, and for the right reason, because maybe it'll help people realize that you don't need to listen to what others say about you, especially when what they're singing might not be true or might not be conducive. That being the song You're Nothing, and because I'm internet radio, I can't say You're Nothing But Shit is the name of the song. And I played it, I've listened to it, I really get into it, and I'm just wondering where the inspiration for that song.
So that song was one of the first ones that we started writing after we got off tour. The music came from, we just wanted to write something that was going to be a little bit more radio friendly, but we weren't trying to write a radio song. We were just kind of in that mentality of let's make it kind of groove, keep it at more of a mid-tempo. Um, so we kind of developed the music, and then Matthew came in with these lyrics, which are just about the people who, for whatever reason, think that they're above us, um, and how they're not, and how that we're all on the same level. That there's nothing that makes one person better than another person. Um, so he developed the lyrics, and we came in and tweaked the music a little bit, make it a little bit more aggressive. Um, Added that gang vocal at the end. That was what our producer Mike had definitely suggested for that song. So it just kind of naturally developed like that, and we recorded it fairly fast. Just one of those songs that came together very quickly in the studio. So definitely happy with how it turned out.
You guys immediately then, just came off the road and went right into this thing, because, you've said that multiple times. Is that something, try to do, is to write in the studio and get into a writing mode? Because there are so many bands that either like to write on the road and then clean it up in the studio, or write in the studio only. There are other bands nowadays, because there is such a need to stay fresh, that they're writing and recording while they're touring. What made it so definitive for you guys that, your plan was come off the road and write the album?
Mm-hmm. We get very inspired when we're on the road, and when we work with the bands on the road, they'll share their knowledge with us. CJ, he would share his guitar tricks and things that he does with me, and there's a couple of those that are scattered throughout the record that I picked up on. So we tend to naturally just wait till we're off the road, and we'll just write at home, or we'll take a weekend and go up in the mountains, and that's the only thing we do is just write in the mountains. And then we'll clean it up in the studio. We just work on like rough demos at home, but that tends to be the pattern. We, in our position as being a support band with all these tours, there's not much free time for us to just sit down and try and record a record. So that's why we tend to write afterwards.
Yeah, I can definitely, understand now, because you guys are kind of still working the crowds, I guess would be the best way to put it. And, you're definitely doing it right if you've got all these bands taking notice of you and wanting to take you guys out on the road and give you guys the exposure that you so rightly deserve. And you mentioned you learned from a few tricks here and there from CJ of Drowning Pool, from being out with them. Are there any other tricks of the trade that you picked up, or maybe even shown a few tricks to some of the veterans out there?
When it comes to like the CJ Andrew dynamic when we were out on the road, it was more of me learning from him, but there were definitely a couple things that I think he picked up on. He definitely taught me for studio and for live just how to dial in the amp better. So I picked up a Marshall amp, and we really got that thing dialed in, and that's the amp I used in studio. It's the amp I use live now. So that was probably the biggest impact he had. But just we go back and forth just on our styles of how we play our guitar and how we solo, and he's definitely a much more developed player than I am at this point. But there's still things that when you're working with somebody who maybe is not up on level with you, still pick up on things that they're doing that maybe you forgot about doing early on. So definitely cool for that. And then just working with Mike and talking with them, the producers that they've used before for recording, just all their tricks that they've used in studio. There's a couple things that he told us to do when we go into studio that we did. So that was very helpful as well, and really helped us get that really heavy recording that we were looking for.
Well, it definitely comes across on voices, and and there's always so much to learn, and it goes both ways, and I think a lot of people forget that in the industry. Even the fans, I think they think that you guys go out and you don't talk and you don't jam, when you guys are out there on the road together doing a month or more dates together, and you guys are going to cross paths and are going to share notes or sit down and jam. And I think that also speaks to the growing fact that rock and metal is kind of going back to being one overall community of rock and metal, and not being a division of subgenres that it once was.
Definitely, and that's one of the things that even when we were out within this moment, Chris, Howard, and Maria would take some time and talk to us, and we would be able to get into these things of what do you do for guitar, how do you approach these things, and not only is it just super cool to be able to do that with some of the the musicians that I've looked up to and influenced, but like you said, it does speak volumes of the community that is rock and metal, and really just I think as a musician, you always want to be exploring new things and learning new things, and that only occurs if you do interact with people who you've never met or seen play before, and ask them, how do you do this? Because then it might help you out with something, or you improve upon that, or change something that you're doing. So, just as a musician, just being ever curious of new ways to make music, and then just as you said, the metal community just coming together. We should all know each other and help each other develop and learn as artists.
Exactly. I mean, it's really no other way to put it, because the way any type of art form grows is simply by everyone kind of learning from each other and influencing each other and taking little tricks here and there from each other. And sometimes it didn't work right away, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, to sit there and go, hey, when we were on tour with so and so, there was this one trick. I wonder if it'll work here. And then all of a sudden, next thing years later, you sit there and go, wow, it just was a matter of timing and finding out when to use it.
Absolutely. You never know when anything that you learn is going to come in handy for you.
Absolutely, which is just a great way to keep everything growing, and keep the music growing, and keep developing as not only a musician but as a band. Now, Red Tide Rising, as we said, you guys have dates coming out with Sevendust and Crobot. What's the plan for you guys going through the rest of 2016? Is there a Voices Part 2 maybe being discussed, or a full-length follow-up? What's the game plan right now for you guys going through the rest of the year?
So we are there's probably gonna be one more tour after the Sevendust run. My guess is it's gonna be October or November. In the meantime, we have been starting to continue to writing the full-length record. Still trying to figure out if we're gonna do, like you said, where we maybe do a part 2, or if we just combine the EP with what the new songs are going to be to create the full length, or if it's just going to be a standalone full length. We're still trying to figure that out on our end, but I would definitely expect some more music from us. Probably mid to late next year is realistically when it's going to come out.
Understandably, because you guys obviously want to get out there and start playing these new songs and get them out there and get a better feel for them from the crowds. And yeah, I gotta admit, yeah, that is a good, I guess a good problem you guys trying to have in deciding whether or not it would be a part two, or whether or not you would rework what you've already put out for the full-length album. You know, when you've got something that's getting the acclaim that it is, it's kind of a good problem to have moving forward, not knowing exactly which way to use it or whether or not to leave it as its own being.
hmm Yep, it's definitely something that we've been talking about it for a little bit. What we want to do. Um, I think we're definitely happy that we released the EP, just in the sense that most of these tours that we're going to be on, we are going to be in a support slot for about a half hour to 40 minutes of playing, which means that we're going to play the EP in in its entirety, which is something that I love when bands they play an entire record. So that it kind of worked out where we don't have to necessarily pick and choose songs. Old spot songs, and either throw in a couple old ones that we like, or we can possibly do a cover and maybe a potential new one that we've been working on for the full length. So it's kind of nice that we can play it in its entirety, and if somebody wants to buy the CD, they know exactly what is on it.
Yeah, that's kind of a great way to look at it and to do it. I think too many bands nowadays don't take that risk. Even the established bands, they'll put out a new album and they'll promote a new album and they'll do all the radio interviews and press, and then come to tour, they give you one or two new songs after they've done all this press, claiming, oh, it's one of their favorite albums and it's the most fun they've had in years, and they give you two songs from this brand new album that they're so excited about. And here you guys are, still a relatively young band, but with a very strong following, and really getting known out there, saying, you know what, we have a new EP, we're gonna play it in its entirety, and if you like it, you know what's on it. You don't have to question or wonder about the rest of it because they only heard one or two of the new ones. And I gotta say, I give you guys a lot of credit for doing that, because I know many bands, even at the support level, that would not take that risk. It would still play what people know versus playing the new one.
Absolutely. I think it comes down to that all of us are very confident with the record. It's definitely all of our favorite songs that we've written, which it should be. I think a band should naturally develop and expect their latest release to be the best that they've done. So that's definitely the case for us, where we decided we don't want to cut any of these songs. We want to play it in its entirety if we have to. That we've put ourselves in, and I think the fans will appreciate it just because it reflects on our live show. When you're excited to play the songs, and when you know that the songs are good and the people are going to get into it, it just makes the show that much better.
Well, I mean, you can't get much better than that. When you guys are having fun on stage and enjoying yourselves, it resonates out to the crowd and it feeds back, and basically you guys just end up feeding each other. The band feeds the crowd feeds the band, and you end up with a night no one will ever forget. So make sure you guys get out there and support Red Tide Rising, going out with Sevendust and Crobot coming to a town near you. RedTideRising.com is the website. The album is Voices, out now. Andrew Whiteman, thank you for joining me here inside the Asylum tonight. Before I have you go, I gotta ask, of the five off of Voices, what would be the one track that you would want me to play tonight here inside the Asylum?
Ooh, that is a tough call. I would say either You're Nothing or The Sound of Voices Screaming. Those are my two favorite tracks off of the record. Either one of those.
Well, let's do. I played You're Nothing last week for everyone, so this week let's give everyone something new with The Sound of Voices Screaming. And before I do play that, is there any backstory or special meaning behind that one for you?
That one, when we were writing it first, this is Matthew's song. It's just about coming together in the metal community and raising our voices and opposing this thought that rock and metal music is dying. That's what the song is about. Is that we are very much here, we're very much alive, and we're going to be very much in your face about it.
That is a great message, and one I know everyone agrees with. Go check out Red Tide Rising on tour with Sevendust and Crobot, and go get the EP Voices wherever you buy your music. Right now, the sound of Voices Screaming from Red Tide Rising.